Hello, everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder of Path Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. We're going to do a quick weekly sector overview to help us prepare for the coming trading week. By the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Longer-term subscribers and viewers, please come back, like the videos, and leave some comments. So, we had a interesting week last week, a pretty big down Friday. Now remember, just because things are in bullish mode, all right, that does not mean that you can't get pullbacks in them. There were very few places to hide on Friday, and that could continue. We're expecting some more pullbacks this week. So if there's nothing going on, even in the strong sectors, does that mean you always have an entry for the stock? Or if you're trading the sectors, does not mean you have an entry for that sector. Keep that in mind. In this kind of environment, do not force trading. It's really wise. If you look at the heat map, let me see if I have my heat map. Look at this from Friday. Look how little green there was across sectors just were getting obliterated. Even stuff like healthcare, which has generally been stronger recently, obliterated. Your mega caps got hurt. Some of your consumer specialty stuff, consumer staples got hurt. Real estate got hurt. Pretty much utilities, which has been very strong, really got hurt. So please keep that in mind. Now, we'll start going through these. XLE, the energy sector, and all these are ETFs, by the way, so you can trade the just pure ETF. I use them for finding great plays. So example, energy's coming back down off some topping pattern area. Still strong overall, but I'm watching, it's still in a complete buy mode. It's not anywhere close to a sell mode, but going to watch for some continued pullback. Why? Here's your daily chart. We did close below the rotation zone finally, so this was the first close below the rotation zone since back in the middle of March. And you see a lot of times when it comes rotation zone, did a little dip below, but then it finally got above rotation. Now we're back below it. Watching for a pullback closer to the 50 EMA and the 25% harmonic from this run-up. If that doesn't hold, then my next major level is about 70. We'll watch for 70. Let's just take that and look. See, we're right at the rotation zone on the weekly. So we start breaking down from here, get below that 25% harmonic. We'll start watching for the bottom of the rotation zone. And then we do have still a potential double top in play. But overall, unless that double top does trigger, then I'm still watching for energy plays, but I am being patient at this point because we could start seeing some bigger pullbacks still, especially with market pressure. Again, there's nowhere to hide on Friday. So please keep that in mind. So energy, still long-term buy mode, but watching for pullbacks. Real estate, little toppy here, still in buy mode. Okay, still in long-term buy mode, but what are we watching for here? Back to the rotation zone. If it continues back, it broke through this $50 support level, pulling back. I'm going to be watching closer to about $48.75, especially on a closing basis above about $49. We start closing below there, then I'll start focusing on a pullback to $48.08. So what does this mean again? Still, we'll look for real estate plays, especially REIT plays. Home builders could be slowing down, so we'll have to take a look at that. But there can be good plays, especially on pullbacks to some of these key levels. But it's nothing to aggressively run out and just scoop up real estate willy-nilly. And I'm talking about real estate-related stocks. Okay, so we have a little topping area still in strong buy mode on the weekly, but could be in for a slightly bigger pullback, especially with this closing daily price action below this prior resistance. Did not hold this support, so the next major support area is a little back down here. Now, we did have closed above the 62.5, so longer term, I still expect us. We were actually going to test this 87.5 to 100. We just missed it. Still, we'll watch for another longer short-term push higher, but being very patient with that. XLF financials getting really close to a long-term sell signal again. Not really bullish on this at all. Breaking down below this key support. We got that close a couple weeks ago below the 62.5. Little bounce back up, but now we've started retesting. Remember, when we close below the 62.5, we start watching for the 87.5 harmonic to the 100% harmonic. We're definitely in there. I'm not really finding anything in the financial sector I really want to be long at right now, especially if it's about to tip over into another longer term sell. So these would only be things I'd be looking for bearish plays, put spreads, or something like that, outright shorting on any rallies for very weak stocks in the financial sector. Not really looking to buy anything in there right now. Again, rotation zone is negative on the daily. Let's just see where that is on the weekly too. Rotation zone has crossed on the weekly. We come up, you see testing the rotation zone right there and rotating over. Really start paying attention if we break below this 35.50 mark, then especially when you get below 35.20, you don't have much major support coming back. So this is going to probably tip over into a long-term sell mode again. XLK is in sell mode. Again, triggered a new long-term sell. So this is technology. Again, nothing I'm finding right now. You can, on rallies are for, especially back to daily rotation zones on a lot of tech stocks, can be sold. They can be put plays, they can be sold short plays, but nothing I'm looking for from a bullish perspective at all anymore. Again, we got the close below the 62.5, little return to the rotation zone and the 50% harmonic, and now back below the 87.5. I'm watching in the next couple days for us to retest these lows, and then let's levels below that 136.47, 131.96. So again, new sell signal has triggered in that. So rallies are to be sold from our perspective. XLI Industrials, getting close to another sell signal here, but nothing triggered yet. Again, there's not been any areas to hide. We had this little double coming up with all the targets hit and then reversing. So there's short-term bullish. Long-term is now possibly going to tip into bearish mode. Daily, we got the close above the 62.5 harmonic, so that means longer term we could easily retest those lows between about 95.20 to about 93.40. If that does happen, if we get another pretty significant down week, then we will probably tip into a long-term sell signal. So this would just be, if from our perspective, if you are long industrial stocks, to aggressively start moving up your stops. And I'm not really finding much in that sector either. Again, there's very few places to hide right now. So keep that in mind. I'm going to keep saying that. Just consumer discretionary. We had this double coming up, first target hit, just missing the second, and now rolling back over. We'll probably, if this continues lower this week, will trigger another longer term sell signal. So not really touching anything consumer discretionary now. It's in the area I'd watch for a rotation back up, but you start getting close below 173, then it favors a retest of the lows. So unless something's really in outperformance mode in consumer discretionary, not looking to touch it at all. And once we get below this 173 level on the XLY, we'll start looking for more shorting opportunities in consumer discretionary. You look at the weekly rotation zone also. See, we had that doji close above it, but that's tried to spike back above it a couple times and rolling over. So nothing to do from our perspective there. XLP, consumer staples, is still in buy mode longer term, but it's looking very toppy on the daily with this move back to the rotation zone. So based off this, hold on one second, I got to update to our next major key levels. I will start watching it, especially with a slightly bigger pullback, even to the 78.85 area or to about 78. I will start watching for a rotation play back up. What's interesting, consumer staples, again, it's more value oriented, but I've been looking at a number of the consumer staple companies, and they're even running really high fundamentals that I don't think can be sustained with the environment we're going into. So we could continue to see pullbacks. So I'm not just randomly buying anything in consumer staples. I have to be really picky with it, and it needs to outperform. If we do have that bigger pullback, the weekly rotation zone is even. If we get below that 78, then I will watch between the weekly rotation zone, which comes in about 77.20 to roughly about 76. So we could still see, and that would keep it in bullish mode longer term, but watching for these bigger pullbacks, then I'd more aggressively look for consumer staple stocks that aren't overvalued and have had nice pullbacks and look good on the daily charts. But I'm not going, this is different because it's in long-term buy mode, not looking to short anything in there either. XLV breaking down here. This is your healthcare. Again, these 2 weeks of just brutal, still in buy mode, but back to the 50% harmonic from this most recent run-up. And remember, you had this double with the first and second targets being the most likely. That's why we don't necessarily use the third target if it's outside of the candle bodies and reversing strongly back down. I'm getting really picky on healthcare. By the way, this was not a double. If we start breaking below 131.28, then on a short-term basis, not looking for anything. If we do find a base in here and a rotation back up, then I will start looking for any solid fundamental and technical plays within the healthcare sector, but they have to be very strong technical setups based off this weekly pattern. Again, breaking back down and also below the weekly rotation zone and getting here with a major divergence, so we could easily still see lower price action before we get some good setups. And we are a fair way off from a sell signal, but if it has another horrible week, I'm going to keep a close eye on that. XLB Material Select Spider, pretty big breakdown, still in bullish mode. So, but I'm watching again for another pullback in here right at that 200-day 50% harmonic area. I get concerned if we get a close below about 83.80. Then I'd really start focusing on the lower price action. Everything would be off the table. I'd sort of be in neutral mode until it triggers that long-term sells, but once it gets below 62.50, I'd be looking for more shorting opportunities than long opportunities in the Material Select Spider. Now, if we hold in here, by the way, this double is no longer valid with this little spike up. But if we hold in here between the 50 and the 62.5, that's 85.40 to about 83.85. Then I will watch for possible bottoming plays, and I can go through my Material Select stocks and look for some plays. Other than that, not touching anything in the short term. Let's just take a look at the weekly rotation zone, which is flat, and so we could easily pull back to test these lower areas, especially on that close below the 62.5, which is also where the 50-week is. If we get close below there, I'm watching for a retest of the lower price action areas. XLC, we've talked about this many times. It is in a long-term sell signal. You see here, and it's had another. We had a 3 weeks up, then the rollover play, and just getting slaughtered. So nothing's going on here at all. Only things I'm looking for are short plays in the communications sector. And even stuff like Verizon had a pretty big sell-off with their earnings. So that's about it. Watching for 60.63, and then below that about 57.82. But you also see here with the weekly rotation zone, this has been in sell mode since early or mid-January. See here a little bounce, 3 weeks bounce into the rotation zone and rotation lower. Again, nothing from the bullish side at all in there. XLU, which has been very bullish, breaking down here, still a long way off from a long-term sell signal, but breaking down from this 12.5% horizontal channel. So next minor area is 74, and if we break below that, I'm watching for 72.74. So anything in utilities, even though it's been very strong, we are now focused on a bigger pullback level. Okay, you see here, still hasn't reconnected with the weekly rotation zone. So I'll start looking around some utility stocks if we start getting around 72.30 area and start to get any bottoming patterns there. Other than that, I'm just waiting for the pullbacks in here. XRT, the retail ETF's been in sell mode for quite a while, still stays in sell mode. So nothing to do from a retail perspective, breaking out of this flag pattern on the daily basis and now moving back down. I'm also just expecting us to retest this 670 area and then a break below 70. I'd be watching for about 65.70, then 61.61. But keep in mind, you see here into the weekly rotation zone, rotation back down. I'm really expecting before anything comes into play with retail, we're going to easily get down to 61.40 to about 60.04. So not touching anything. From the long side, we'll look for short opportunities, whether they be put plays, put spreads, selling credit spreads with calls, etc. IYT, again, still in sell mode. So we had this little pop up straight to the 50% harmonic, then moving back down. Going to watch now with a return to the low price area. Nothing bullish in transportation right now. See a little spike into the weekly rotation zone area, heading lower, and us being in sell mode, not touching anything. Here's our next harmonic levels lower. Again, once it breaks 239, 233.63, 228.21. Only plays I'm looking for in here are bearish plays. Commodities, we do have a bearish divergence based off this little reversal high. Keeping a really close eye on this. Now, long term, it's still in major bullish mode. Yes, we do have still a potential double top in there. Going to be watching minorly for about 27. We get a close below 27, then my next level I'll be watching for a bounce is about 26.40, 26.35. And then if we break below that, I'm watching for a retest of the 50. And all of those would be areas I'd be watching for bottoming patterns. Where I start getting really concerned is if we start breaking below this 25, then I will start watching for the short-term bigger pullback before going after energy complex stocks again. So this is in a wait and see mode, watching for bottoming patterns before getting into full-blown bullish mode on, like I said, energy on commodities again. We could easily see a much bigger pullback short term, and then it's, again, we're in a commodity super cycle. So these are short-term pullbacks within a long-term uptrend. And you can see how far off we are from even any kind of potential sell signal. So that's something to just be patient, wait for commodity plays on a bigger pullback, and then it's time to reload in that sector. Agriculture, which is the subset of that commodity play, going to be watching for a pullback with a close below the 12.5% harmonic. Going to be watching for that pullback area now. Let me just see here. I got to update some levels. And still nowhere close to any sell signals. Really paying attention to coming back here. Let me just raise these levels one more time. Going to be watching for the pullback to about 22. And then if we drop below 22, my next level is about 21.50. Again, this will be something that I'll be watching for the pullback plays on DBA, not to go short, but pullbacks and anything agriculture related to start watching for another bottoming pattern and rotation back up. That's where we stand now across the board. So we're seeing there's not a lot of great places to hide. There's not a lot of major opportunities right now that things have bottomed. So, and with the overall market analysis, I'm still watching for at least a short-term bigger pullback in the indices. So my only advice is to raise stops, know where they are, and don't chase stuff if there's not good setups. Just wait, sit on your hands, and wait for those bigger pullbacks and then some bottoming patterns. That's what I have for you. Hope everyone has a great trading week, and I will talk to you later. Bye for now.